to us what those photographs were of?
Commissioners, these were photographs of the actual statement of the complainant, Brigadier Petle. I can't read them from this. My eyes are not that good. But I presume they are a full
There are
version.
better copies from page 11. But
So what I know from this, not from reading it, but what I know, I recognize the documents from what she's given to me at the time and on which affidavit was prepared.
And then you also said that it included an audio recording, correct?
That is correct, Commissioners.
And we see that on page 10, the last attachment on page 10 says 2018-0703 audio with a number.
787, it's also on page 8, the top of page 8.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's also photos of the J88 that was inside the docket at the time.
Yes, the J88 appears on page 9, the second last photograph on page 9.
That is correct, Commissioners.
Is it correct then that, especially when you make reference to the J88, that these documents would have been the content of a docket?
That is correct.
It's a proper description.
That's correct, Commissioner. It would have been in the docket itself.
Thank you.
And then if I could just ask you, Colonel, why was it so concerning to you that the suspect in this case, General Khan, had been given the contents of the docket? I know you say there's issues about he may influence the investigation, but at which stage, I mean, we do know that if somebody is then charged as an accused person, they are entitled at some point to the docket. Why was it a concern that it was at that stage?
Commissioners, when we got hold of the docket, because we went to the police's archive and we physically fetched the actual docket, it became clear from the docket and the entries in the docket that General Khan would have been interviewed on, and now I have to rely on the date that the interview was held, and I can't remember that specifically on the top of my head. But he was supposed to be interviewed by the investigating officer on that specific day, and he received this document just prior to be interviewed for a warning statement on that specific day. So he would have known the contents of the complainant's statement prior to him submitting his warning statement. And to me, that's a huge red flag and a very huge concern, because you're not entitled to any statements at that point in time. You're entitled to what the charge is. And I think in this case it was assault common. Happened on such and such a date. That is what you're entitled to. And they do give you that information when they take your warning statement. But to come to the investigating officer with a prepared statement, warning statement, seems to me that you had to have prior knowledge of your version of events based on the evidence that was given to you and on which you can base your affidavit. So that was my biggest concern. We can't sit and put our thumb on the scales of justice one way or the other. It has to be done correctly.
In sum, you are saying having the complainant's statement, there was, at the lowest, there was the possibility of him tailoring his version in accordance with the content of the statement.
Yes, Commissioner. In fact, I will go a little bit further than that, because there's no other reason as to why you want the complainant's statement beforehand. You want to see what she's saying or he is saying. Yeah. And you have to then, and you will tailor your version in so that it doves with what the complainant say. So it's difficult for me to understand any other reason for you doing it, because the inference, that's the only inference that I take away from this. And that is why it was so concerning. And I mean, this kind of modus operandi is being, I've seen this before, where suspects get access to documents prior to them having warning statements, or prior to them when they are supposed to be, when they're only entitled to have documents. So this does happen, and in this specific case, it did happen.
How does that differ from a situation where before a witness testifies in court, that is a criminal court, they actually do get the statement? So in a sense, one could say or make the point that the situation is similar. So what's the difference?
No, it's not similar, Commissioners. From my point of view, and I mean, as an investigating officer, it is very important to me to, when I do a warning statement, that I inform the suspect of the complaint, not what the witness was saying, because I need the suspect's version of events, if he is going to give it to me or not. That's a different ballgame. If he's not giving it to me, then obviously I can't take it further. But if he is willing to give it to me, I can't tell him beforehand what the suspect said, because it's unethical and it's not allowed. So,
Thank you. Can
I just find out, in the normal course of events, when does a suspect become entitled to the contents of the docket? So
Normal
if things are done procedurally, when does the suspect become entitled?
procedurally is when he's either represented or not represented, and the court, either through his lawyer or to himself, the suspect himself. That is when you get entitled to the documents,
So it's after you are charged,
after you charge.
not during the investigation.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Thank you.
But Colonel, at this point, Ms. Johnson would have been in the NPA at this point.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Is there in terms of process, is there a legitimate basis on which she would have had access to the docket at this point of things?
No, Commissioner, but I just want to make, to clarify, we're talking about 2018 now.
Yes.
Yeah. No, there was no reason for, it was a station matter. In other words, it was confined to that specific police station. And I can't remember which jurisdiction in terms of court they fall under. What did I say? It was the Silverton case.
Silverton, yes.
Sorry? Silverton case, yeah. So they would have fall under that jurisdiction of that court, for that area. So in the normal course of business, she doesn't have any reason as to why she wants to get hold of the docket. And in fact, if she wanted to get hold of the docket, she probably would have been able to. She could have just called for it because of her position within the NPA, and I think she was head of organized crime at the time, if I'm not mistaken. So she would have been able to call for the docket in her capacity as an advocate within the NPA. And whether there was a reason for her to call for it, I don't know, because it would not normally fall within their mandate, what they investigate and what they prosecute. But under normal circumstances, there is no reason for her to request a docket.
Thank you.
And also other situations where there would be early access by prosecutors are those instances where the investigation is prosecution directed. So there are those instances where.
Yes, but
Yes. I'm not countering what you said. You are saying, but.
no. What I'm saying is, at the time, you must remember this is at the station level. So you're talking about prosecutorial advice in terms of a docket. What I can't say now is whether the docket went to a prosecutor before the time or not. And if he did, yes, that prosecutor can have access
No,
with guidance.
I'm just talking generally.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yes,
So,
yes.
but she could have contacted the prosecutor as
Yes,
well.
yes,
So
yes.
she didn't have to contact someone else.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Then if we can go back to your statement, page 4, the investigation, that's the heading.
In June paragraph 10. In June 2022, after the meeting with the Colonel, I wanted to interview Mr. Baitman regarding the email he sent on the 3rd of July 2018. I contacted Mr. Andrew Leask of AfriForum because Mr. Baitman was now employed at AfriForum as a media manager. Captain McLean and I interviewed Mr. Baitman in the presence of Mr. Leask and Advocate Gerinel, also of AfriForum. Mr. Baitman informed us that he received the email attachments on the 3rd of July 2018 via WhatsApp from a source that he was not willing to disclose. Mr. Baitman said that Advocate Andrea Johnson, who at the time was a senior public prosecutor in the National Prosecuting Authority, requested the information from him, being the A1 statement, J88 and audio file, and he complied with the request on the same day. I could not remember why Advocate Johnson requested the information.
He could not.
Sorry, he could not remember. Paragraph 11. Mr. Baitman also stated that he had a very good relationship with Advocate Johnson going back to 2011.
Colonel, your voice is tapering
Sorry.
again. Just raise it. Please listen to your wife's advice.
Sorry, wife. Mr. Baitman also stated that he had a very good relationship with Advocate Johnson going back to 2011. He saw nothing untoward about Johnson's request. Mr. Baitman was requested to provide a statement regarding the matter. Despite numerous follow-ups prior to my retirement in 2025, January, for the statement I was informed that he only provided the statement to Captain McLean in June 2026, 4 years after we met with him and requested the statement.
Thank you, Colonel. Can we then go to the exhibit bundle and go to page 45? And I just have a few questions for you regarding the interview with Mr. Baitman. 45, it says BB1. It is an attachment to Mr. Baitman's statement that he provided to Captain McLean this year, but I just want to deal with the attachment to that, which is the WhatsApp that he received from his source with the information, correct?
I'm sorry, just repeat, who is it from and to whom?
The BB1 is what Mr. Baitman indicated is the WhatsApp conversation where he received the information from the source that he eventually sent to Advocate Andrea Johnson.
That's correct, Commissioners.
And the first, you see it's on the 3rd of July 2018 at 11:08, the source sends the audio clip. And his message, Mr. Baitman's message is, what's this about? I make out a General Khan and Brig Petle. And then the next message is from the source, an incident between them. He allegedly also assaulted her with a pen. Case was opened, assault and intimidation. And Mr. Baitman then asks, when did this take place? The source says a week ago. And then Mr. Baitman says, how assault with a pen? And then you can see that on the left, the attachments are being sent, the same attachments that we looked at earlier, which is the A1 statement.
That is correct, Commissioners.
Now, can I just understand, so we're now in 2022 when you meet with Mr. Baitman, Mr. Leask, is it Leask?
Leask, yes.
And Advocate Gerinel of AfriForum.
That is correct, Commissioners.
And we understand, of course, Mr. Baitman's decision not to reveal his source, but did he explain to you how it came about that Advocate Johnson requested the information? How did he say that, how she knew that he had this information and had received it the very day that she requests it from him?
Commissioners, he maintained from the first time that I saw him, he did not deny that he provided the documentation and the WhatsApps. What he couldn't remember at that time is why it was asked of him. But he confirmed it was asked by Advocate Johnson, but he couldn't remember as to why it was asked from him. He is explaining it in the sense that, you know, we are in communication regularly, so it might be just he was giving her information, she was giving him information from what I understood. So it might be in that context. He can't specifically remember why she asked him. But she was specific in terms of what she asked him, because otherwise he wouldn't have provided this.
Yes, if you just look at page 46 of the bundle, because then I just want to, if you look at page 46, this is the email that he sends to her later that evening, 3 July 2018, at 18:05. So he sends it to her, 6 hours, 7 hours later. He receives it that same day. So when you engage him, did he explain whether he already had the information and she knew he had the information, or whether she asked him to get the information and he then got it? Because it can't be a coincidence that she requests it on the very day that he receives it from a source.
No, the impression that I had during the whole conversation is that, she specifically requested this docket. He wouldn't have known giving it to her if it wasn't requested.
Yes.
Which is, as far as I'm concerned, a logical answer from his point of view.
Yes, her request, yes, but how would she know that he had it and had received it that same day that she requests it from him?
From what I understood, she requested him to see if he can get it.
Okay.
So he was supposed to source the documents and then provide it to her.
So he initiates her request and asks his source to get it.
That is what I understood. Yes, that is correct, Commissioners.
That would seem to be in line, because any other scenario wouldn't make sense. It would just be a happy coincidence for her to ask it on the same day that he has it without even knowing that he had it. She would have to have known that he had it to request it, or, as you say, the impression you had was that she requested him to obtain it for her.
Yeah, I think one should also take into account that between the request on the same day, which was in the morning, it was only sent in the afternoon late, which suggests to me that it took some time for him to source the documents.
Yes, but it would seem that on page 45, by 12 o'clock, at least, he already has it, because the attachments start coming in at 11:24.
That is correct.
Yes.
Commissioners.
And he gets the audio recording at 11:08. So if it was an instance where she requested it from him to obtain it, so he didn't have it at the time that she made the request and she wanted him to get it for her, then I suppose he gets it, and we don't know what informs his decision to only send it later that evening, because he only sends it at 6 in the evening to her.
That is my sense when I had an interview with him in terms of what happened.
Okay, but he
That is what he
didn't
explained.
specifically give you the information about how the request came about, whether it was her asking him to get it for her, or whether she knew that he already had it and asked just to send it to her.
No, Commissioners, as far as I'm concerned, he was quite clear on that. He was asked